Why Rashod Bateman is about to put the entire NFL on notice. And then an episode of Guess That Gopher today on Locked On Golden Gophers.
Locked On Golden Gophers, your daily podcast on the Minnesota Golden Gophers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, beautiful people, to the Locked On Golden Gophers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am Kane Rob, host of the podcast, former collegiate football video coordinator and recruiting assistant, now here to talk Golden Gophers with you each and every day of the week. Please head on over to YouTube if you're not watching or listening there right now and subscribe. Let's build this thing up. We started with nothing. We started that YouTube page fresh out of nowhere in the beginning of May, and we're at over 150 subscribers. So let's get that continuing to go. Tell your friends to subscribe and tell people about the pod. Now, we've got a busy week this week for you, and that includes today we have a Guess That Gopher episode, and we're going to talk Rashod Bateman. Tomorrow, we've got an interview with Darius Taylor, 2023 commit for the football team. Then Wednesday, we're going to do a crossover podcast with Locked On Badgers, and we are going to talk all of the Big Ten head coaches and how we would rank them. Thursday, we've got none other than incoming true freshman, Braden Carrington on the podcast with us, and you're not going to want to miss that. And then Friday, we'll wrap the week up with a solo show before we head into another fantastic weekend. So tune in, subscribe, and be sure to share it with others. Now, let's jump into this. You know what? What we're talking about today is Rashod Bateman, one of the better receivers that we've had in this program throughout our program, but especially in the last few years. Now, Rashod Bateman was drafted by the Baltimore Ravens last year as a rookie, so the 2021 NFL draft, first round, 27th pick. Unfortunately, he had some injuries and he missed all of the preseason in the first 5 regular season games, and then he was kind of just thrown into the thick of it, but he did find success, and we're going to talk about that. But let's talk about what he did with the Gophers first. Rashod Bateman, as I said, he's about to put the entire league on notice. He's an athletic freak who showed out with the Minnesota Golden Gophers. Even after sharing the wide receiver room with Tyler Johnson, who is the Gophers' all-time leader in receiving yards and receiving touchdowns. He shared a room with him, yet for 2 seasons, he was able to bring in 111 receptions, 17 touchdowns, and 1,923 yards. And that is in the same 2 seasons with Tyler Johnson. So that's not including that third year. And that third year was the COVID year. We'll get into it, but that's impressive, folks. He is sharing a room with the all-time leader in receiving yards and receiving touchdowns, yet he also had 1,923 yards in that span on 111 receptions. Now, if not for the COVID season that I just mentioned, that heavily impacted the Gophers. That COVID season hit us hard as a squad, and also injuries hit us. It was a rough year. We had 2 games, I believe, that were completely scrapped. It was a tough year for us, but if he would have had that season, he could have been right up there with Tyler Johnson, with Eric Decker, with Ron Johnson in the top receiving statistical categories, right up there with them. He finished 6th all-time with 2,395 yards, 5th all-time with 19 receiving touchdowns, and then 6th all-time in receptions with 147 receptions. So you give him that full season, full health, I believe he's right up there in the top 3. I believe he would statistically be up there with the best of them. So he's got the talent. He showed out with the Gophers. Now, what was impressive is that he saw a 35% target share in college. That's 98th percentile when it came to the 2021 draft class. So he had the best target share, or one of the best target shares of all the wide receiver prospects in the entire country. Not just those who got drafted, but of every single wide receiver prospect in that class of 2021. Now, on top of that, he had that high target share, but he also had a 64% catch rate, which is phenomenal. Now, he had a breakout age of 18 and a college dominator of 40%. Now, not everybody knows what breakout age and college dominator is, but breakout age is the age at which a player has obtained at least a 20% dominator rating. Now, still, this doesn't explain dominator rating. So let me tell you about that. Dominator rating, it represents a player's market share or his percentage of the team's entire offensive production. So how much of the offense strictly came through Rashod Bateman? Now let me rewind. His college dominator was a 40%. 40%. So 40% of the offensive production during his time with the Gophers came from Rashod Bateman on plays he was involved in. That is heavy. That is impressive. That is the thing is, he was literally honed in on, him and Tyler Johnson were honed in on, and he still came up with that much of offensive production. It was fantastic. It was phenomenal. He put up great numbers, and it's why he became a first-round pick. Now, as I said, he was drafted in the first round, 27th pick in 2021, and he's also got some speed to him. He's not super slow, but he's not like blazing fast, but he ran a rock solid 4.48 as his official 40 time at the combine. And at his pro day, he ran a 4.43. So he's right in there in the thick of the 4.4s, which is an absolutely beneficial and positive number to be running as a wide receiver. He can hold his own, but that's not even what stands out with his game. He's not a burner. He's not someone who's going to blow the top off. He's an athletic freak with great hands, with a 58th percentile catch radius and a 58th percentile burst score. So he's got a little burst to him, but his best assets are his hands, his clean release package, and his route running. He can get off the line of scrimmage and in a hurry, and he can absolutely shake defenders. The things that Keenan Allen, Devontae Adams, Devontae Smith, like those type of guys, Steph Diggs, according to Player Profiler, is his best comparable wide receiver comp when it comes to the metrics that he put up. His best comp is Stephon Diggs. I think everybody in the NFL would be absolutely stoked if they found the next Stephon Diggs. They have a similar type of game. Their route running is pristine. And so those are the strengths that we see with Rashod Bateman. So why is he set up to go off next year? We're going to talk about that next, but first, we're going to talk about Bet Online. We've got all the latest and greatest when it comes to sports wagering information. Bet Online is giving you more props, more odds, more lines than ever. You can check it out for playoff hockey. You can check it out for playoff basketball, futures for the Heisman, futures for the over-under totals for college football. And those numbers are constantly updating. They're constantly staying correct. And if you need anything at all when it comes to sports wagering information, you absolutely have to go over to Bet Online. So be sure to head on over to Bet Online to get the latest trends in action. Bet Online, where the game starts. All right, so let's talk about why Rashod Bateman is set up to go off this year. But before that, I want to thank you for making Locked On Golden Gophers your first listen when it comes to podcasts. And on top of that, we have an important favor to ask you about, and that is all of our Locked On network, every single podcast within the Locked On is put together a survey, and we're asking you, the listener, to fill that out so we can learn more about our listeners like you and make your favorite Locked On podcasts even better. So please, from the bottom of my heart, I ask you to go to lockedonpodcasts.com/survey right now and get started. It won't take very long, and everyone that completes a survey qualifies for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Ticketmaster gift cards. So to take the audience survey, go to lockedonpodcasts.com/survey, and thank you so much for your help. Now let's dive in. Why is Rashod Bateman set up to go off on the Ravens this year? He's going to put the league on notice. He's going to be a number one receiver. He's going to show that he has the chops to be an alpha on an NFL squad. Now, why is that? The first things first is the Baltimore Ravens just traded away their number one receiver. Their burner, they play completely different games, but Marquise Brown has officially been traded to the Arizona Cardinals. So Rashod Bateman is officially the wide receiver one. Now they have a number one target as well in Mark Andrews, who will get his, but they play completely different positions. They run completely different routes. And so he's going to get his, just like Travis Kelce gets his with the Chiefs, just like Darren Waller gets his with the Raiders. They're going to get theirs, but you still saw success from Hunter Renfrow. You know that Devontae Adams is going to get his with the Raiders this year. You know that Tyreek Hill ate when it came to the Chiefs, even with Travis Kelce there. So there's still a lot of room for wide receiver production with the Baltimore Ravens. We even saw that last year. Mark Andrews had one of his best statistical years last year, and Hollywood Brown still had one of his better years as well, where he had 145 targets, 1,008 yards, and 6 touchdowns this past season. That's what Hollywood Brown's stat line was. That's all gone. That's out the door and vacated. And that is what Rashod Bateman is stepping into when it comes to opportunity. Now, not only did Hollywood Brown have 145 targets last year, he had 100 targets the year prior to that. And so it's right there. It's for the taking, and he can have that success. He can have that opportunity coming in. So there's targets to be had. And I know people fear Lamar Jackson being a guy that maybe doesn't throw the ball a lot, but as I just said, Hollywood Brown saw over 245 targets in the past 2 seasons combined. Hollywood Brown has had 6 or more touchdowns in all 3 of each of the last 3 seasons. Even being injured last year, Rashod Bateman played 12 games after not having any preseason or early game work. He was thrown into it in the middle of the year, and he still had 46 receptions for 515 yards and a touchdown. That's coming off of nothing. A little bit of training camp, a little bit of OTAs and whatnot way before, but now he's going to have all of that. He's going to be working with Lamar this whole offseason, a full camp, full health. The sky's the limit, folks. The sky is the limit. Now, though he didn't get a ton of time in year one due to the injuries, he did have an impressive 63.6% contested catch rate in the NFL. That is number 7 in the entire league when it comes to wide receivers in contested catches. He had the number 7 contested catch rate in the entire NFL. So he can get it done. It doesn't matter if people are all over him, if they're draped in. He can catch the ball. He's sure-handed, and he's going to find space and opportunity. Now, Bateman is ready for his time to shine. The thing that really stood out to me is that he was literally asked what he thought, what his reaction was to the Marquise Brown trade. And what he said in a podcast with his teammate Marlon Humphrey was, all due respect to Marquise Brown, and I'm going to miss him because he's my brother, but it was like, it's my time. He's ready. He understands that this is the time for him to step up. This is his time to shine, and the opportunity is there for the taking. So it's super exciting. I mean, he has an immense target potential with a high-powered winning offense. Only other target really that's competition for him is Mark Andrews, and both of them can get theirs. So the opportunity is right there. So he's got the opportunity, he's got the ability, he's got the drive, and now he has the health. You can't go wrong with those 4 things lined up for you. He's been putting in the time with Lamar this offseason, and even with Lamar skipping the voluntary OTAs, they've already met up and posted. There's been videos out there that Bateman and Lamar have worked together already 2 to 3 different times this offseason, and they will be working together throughout the rest of this offseason, on and off. They're establishing that connection. They're establishing the chemistry and how Rashad likes to run his routes, so that way Lamar can find him in the right spots. That is all going to help. That chemistry and that connection building up is just the start of the year 2 breakout. Now, year 2 is typically the time where the game slows down for wide receivers, especially for rookies. Building that connection plus the game slowing down should be a great combination entering as the wide receiver 1 for the Baltimore Ravens. So I'm excited. Rashod Bateman is about to put the entire NFL on notice, and we are going to be proud Gopher alums, and it's going to benefit us, the Gophers, as well, because it shows wide receivers you can come play here and still have NFL success, still be a top dog, still be a number 1 pick and be an alpha. So when he pops off, it helps us as well. I am extremely excited for Rashod Bateman. I cannot wait to see what he does this season, and hopefully he absolutely balls out so that way other people know they can come here with Kirk Soraka and with PJ Fleck, and they can make their dreams happen and be a top wide receiver. The opportunity is there and their talent can shine. So that's what we're talking about with Rashod Bateman. We're going to close the show today with another episode of Guess That Gopher. We've kind of moved away from Wednesdays and just hit it wherever it fits best. But Guess That Gopher is the trivia-based, clue-based trivia game. It's similar to the Power Trip morning show here in Minneapolis, if you've heard the Initials game. Similar to that, we'll dive into that next. But first, let's talk about our friends over at Built Bar. See, Built Bar has these delicious protein bars. Now, this one is the granola bar, white chocolate berry. And let me tell you, it's wrapped in 100% real chocolate. It is tasty. I mean, it tastes delicious. And on top of that, it's got that hint of berry, that hint of fruit that just encapsulates the chocolate that is with it. Now, not only that, but it has 17 to 19 grams of protein, depending on which flavor bar you choose. And they're low in sugars, low in net carbs. So it's good for you. It's filling. It's the great snack if you're feeling like, oh, I'm hungry, but we're going to eat later. Grab a Built Bar. If you just worked out and you need some protein punch of protein, a pack. What is the saying? You need a punch of protein. We're going with that. I can't think of it right now. It's slipping off the top of my head, but Built Bar is going to give you that protein powered punch. And so head on over to built.com and use promo code LOCKED15, LOCKED15 for 15% off your order. And that's not just your first order, folks. It's not like those other podcast ads that you hear all the time where it's like 15% off your first time and then you can never use it again. No, you can use it each time on your Built orders. So if you want to keep getting these things, you want to try new flavors, use LOCKED15. Promo code LOCKED15 over at built.com. Head on over today. All right, so let's wrap this thing up, folks. We are doing an episode or a segment of Guess That Gopher. Now, we've done this week in and week out, and hopefully you're used to it by now. I'm still not seeing who's getting it when and if you're liking it. So if you are liking the segment, drop it down below. But let's jump into it. I'm going to give you 6 clues, and you're trying to guess which Gopher athlete this is within those clues. Now, the earlier you get it, the better it is. Essentially, it would be like getting 500 points if you get in the first clue, 400 points if you get in the second clue, and so on. So drop down below and tell me when you're getting it. Let me see if I need to make these things harder. But it's a good trivia-based game with your favorite Gophers athletes of past, present, and potentially future. So let's jump in. This is clue number 1. This Gopher athlete was an All-American and 2-time All-Big Ten. Clue number 2. This Gopher was 9-1 in his senior season with 109 strikeouts and batted a .385 with 33 RBIs. Clue number 3. This Gopher became the highest paid player in baseball during his time with New York. Clue number 4. This Gopher made it to the semifinals of the College World Series and was voted MVP of the tournament. Clue number 5. This Gopher was drafted by the Padres, the Atlanta Hawks, and the Minnesota Vikings. Clue number 6. This Gopher athlete played both baseball and basketball with the Gophers and also won the school's first outright Big Ten basketball championship, in their first championship in 53 seasons. So I feel like this one, a lot of the diehard Gopher fan listeners probably got this one pretty early, but the answer to this episode of Guess That Gopher was none other than Dave Winfield. Now, Winfield was inducted into the first class of College Baseball Hall of Fame. The very first class of College Baseball Hall of Fame, Winfield was inducted. He was a 12-time All-Star in the MLB, a World Series champion. He was a 7-time Gold Glove winner and a 6-time Silver Slugger Award winner. His number 31 was retired with the Padres, and he was inducted into the Padres Hall of Fame, and he was inducted first ballot into the Baseball Hall of Fame. So epic Gopher athlete, multi-sport, and one of the best Gopher athletes in any sport at the university, Dave Winfield. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please let me know any thoughts, any improvements that you want to see in the show down below, or feel free to DM on Twitter at LO Golden Gophers, and we will take all of that into consideration. I want to make this show what you want to hear. Now, be sure to tune in later this week. We've got Darius Taylor, we've got Locked On Wisconsin Badgers, and then we've got Braden Carrington all joining the show this week. So be sure to tune in. This is Kane Rob signing off. Have a great rest of the day. See ya.